I'd like to now introduce Chris Olsen from Roading New Zealand. Chris is the safety manager with the Canterbury Southern Zone, and he's also a member of the Construction Safety Council. So, Chris?
Well, thank you, Catherine, and good morning, everybody. And it's great to be here. And thank you very much for the opportunity to be able to come and share with you all some of our experiences and from an industry's perspective on mobile plant and the safety of workers on foot around mobile plant. I thought I'd start off by just giving a bit of an overview about Roading New Zealand for those who haven't heard of us. And then I want to talk about our response to this issue of safety of workers around mobile plant over the last 10 years, really, and looking forward to what the next phase is. And this is really from an industry's perspective. It is more from the civil contractor's perspective. Okay, so Roading New Zealand is really an industry association that represents roading contractors. And we have been around since 1988. And our members do 80% of all the roading work in New Zealand, and they also do quite a lot of other infrastructure work as well. I've put our vision up there, not so much to read it out to you, but just to emphasise that our vision is a picture of what we want to see the civil contracting industry to be in 5 years' time. And everything we do works towards that. The key point is that the first word in there is a safe industry. So we have huge emphasis, and we have done for the last 20 years, on safety, health and safety. Our board, just to give a bit of the governance, our board basically, you need to be a CEO to be on our board, and we have the CEOs of Fulton Hogan, Downer, Higgins, Transfield, Heb Construction and Isaacs. So they're very, very committed, and they have the authority to make decisions and move things forward. We've had a health and safety committee since the early 90s, which has done enormous work in terms of developing codes of practice and guidelines, banning unsafe practices as an industry. We've done that. We've also developed a whole health and safety qualifications regime with our ITO, and we've established contractor accreditation schemes. Operate Safe, some of you may have heard of Operate Safe. Operate Safe is now really moving on and is being replaced by some of the work that the Construction Safety Council is doing. Okay, mobile plant and worker safety. And as I say, the problem is, and Catherine has already outlined a lot of that, but I just wanted to focus on it from the roading industry's point of view and what's happened since 1998. And so a bitumen sprayer, that's where you're sealing a road and the bitumen sprayer is spraying the bitumen on and the trucks follow. Okay, a bitumen sprayer reverses up and ran over the stop-go person. Another one is a truck was reversing into the milling machine. Now, a milling machine, you might see they're very big machines and they grind up the road and they put them on a conveyor belt which then dips down and tips it into a truck. The truck was reversing up to get underneath the conveyor belt and it ran over the spotter. Of course, the spotter's meant to be keeping an eye on things and making sure that everything works. There was, those two were, probably back prior 2005. These latest ones are far more recent. So a grader reversed over a worker who was stringing the job. Stringing the job is when you're getting the crossfalls right, so you have a string line from one side of the road to the other, and the grader was working there and reversed over. And these are all fatalities, by the way. These, I haven't focused at all on all the incidences, many, many instances. These are just the really high profile ones and the fatalities. We also had a water cart, which is watering the road during road construction. It also reversed over the stop-go person. And the most recent one is that a bitumen sprayer, again, reversed over a foreman, although there was some thought that the foreman had had a heart attack at the time. So these are certainly quite significant. And I think the most tragic of all of these was the very first one, because the guy that was driving the bitumen sprayer, it was his wife that was the stop-go person. So that had a profound impact, not only on the company, but also on the industry. Okay, so what happened? Well, first in 2005, as a result of one of the companies in discussions with DOL came to us and said, how about developing up some guidelines for the control of reversing vehicles? So we established a working group of industry to do that. It took some time to research it and to get the information. And we produced these guidelines in 2009, which were endorsed by DOL, Department of Labour. And these are on, if people are interested, these are on our website. And I've actually got a copy here that look like that. We've never published them as documents, they've just always been in soft copy. These guidelines focused on the key elements at the time, which was identifying blind spots, giving a process and giving an indication, because they're guidelines, and you have no hope of hundreds and hundreds of vehicles and looking at where are all the blind spots on the vehicles. So they gave generic type helpful tips, and as a result of that, I know that most companies have actually gone away and developed them all big time for their particular companies. Also, the role of spotters and training of spotters, accident prevention, what to do, how to prevent them, quite detailed stuff, and also procedures for safe reversing. So that was all good, and that all carried on and has been in practice. And it's interesting that the forestry industry really took them up and started using them as well. In 2012, NZTA started taking more of a leadership role in health and safety as a principle to its contracts. And it was engaging quite a lot with industry about health and safety and what to do. And so out of those discussions came an agreement that we needed to take these reversing, these guidelines, controller reversing guidelines, and make them apply to all mobile plant for the safety of pedestrians and workers. And also that not only for all mobile plant, but also that it become a code of practice. And the interesting stat that we found through that was that reversing accidents, like what I mentioned before, were only really 60% of the total picture of all incidences around mobile plant and workers. We then, Roading New Zealand, with the Contractors Federation, then commissioned a very comprehensive report where we had someone go out and research best practice by all New Zealand civil contractors, both Federation and Roading New Zealand, and they came up with 40 measures that you needed to make sure that you were mitigating the risks properly. We collapsed those down to 21 general categories. These hazards and controls were then incorporated into the reversing guidelines document and reformatted into a code of practice format, and we followed the working at heights model. However, we did all that and we looked at it at the end and thought, it's all very good and it represents obviously current best practice, but is it really the best? And should we really look overseas to see if we can improve this? So we then get into the next phase, which is moving forward. So what's happened now is that the project has come under this, as a result of those discussions with NZTA, a NZTA Industry Health and Safety Leadership Forum. It's effectively a health and safety council, but there's so many health and safety councils that we get confused, so we just called it a leadership forum. So it got taken over, it got transferred to that, and one of the guys in the room here, Bruce Cullen from Downer, he is the project coordinator for this initiative. Also going on at the same time in terms of the reviews, Downers have done quite a bit of comprehensive research within their company, and we're going to hear a little bit about that in a minute. And Fulton Hogan have gone and done an international study of what is international best practice. So at present, this draft code of practice is being reviewed, and we're hopeful that a draft will be available at the end of this month. And then we'll be seeking feedback from WorkSafe and others on it. And then the Health and Safety Leadership Forum will be looking to endorse that, and it will become a requirement, certainly by NZTA, as a principle for all contractors to be using it. And we're also hopeful too that that will roll out into local government, and that all local authorities will require contractors to use that as well. So, thank you very much, everybody.